Hello everyone and welcome to my Quadratic channel. Is able to help you to build up your habit in completing a question a day in mathematics. So for today's video, we'll look at a question from Form 4 Chapter 2, Quadratic Functions. So before we begin to discuss this question, y'all can take a look and try it by yourself first. In part A, the things that we can highlight is these two. So meaning, they've given us a quadratic function and the roots are alpha and beta. And now the question tells us to show these two equations. So the big question is, how do we show these two equations? So let's observe first. From the left side of these two equations is something that we learned before. Alpha plus beta meaning we are summing up the roots, or SOR. Here is also the same. So this is actually our POR, or product of roots. If let's say there is this equation, this would be our SOR and this would be our POR. By using this concept, we can actually use these two separate information to find the SOR and the POR. So for this first equation, we can actually use this way to find these two things. And using the second information, we can find these two. So for these two information, we are going to find their respective SOR and POR. So for the first information, before we find the SOR and POR, make sure the value of x squared is 1. So we need to divide the whole equation with a. And now to find our SOR, we can just take this value. But please remember this, when pulling out the SOR, we need to transform positive values to negative, negative values to positive. So here our SOR would be negative b over a. Later I'll explain why we need to do so. For POR, we can just straight pull out, which is c over a. So if you compare these two things from the two equations that we need to show, this is actually the values on the right side. By looking at the second information, which is the roots alpha and beta, now we need to form an equation first to get the SOR and POR. So now in this case, we are actually in this stage where x equals to alpha and x equals to beta. So now we need to work back to the front. So to find our SOR, we need to combine all the values with x first. Also, we need to make sure that when pulling out the SOR, we need to make sure outside there is a negative. You can observe at the top right corner here. So we need to pull out the negative for both alpha and beta. Now you can see that our SOR is here. Again, from negative to positive, positive, negative. So our SOR here is alpha plus beta. And here our POR is alpha, beta. So these two information are actually from the left side of the equations that we need to prove. And we can do a final conclusion by comparison. We will get this when we equal the SOR. We get this when we equal the POR. And don't forget, there's another part we need to answer, which is hence find the sum of roots and product of roots for this equation. So it's quite straightforward. So our SOR, it would be minus b over a. And our POR would be c over a. So SOR you will get 15 over 2 and POR we will get negative 3. Now you may be wondering why when we are pulling out the SOR, we need to change from negative to positive or positive to negative. Okay, the reason is because here. So when we are trying to find the SOR, you can see that from here, the things inside here, if without pulling out the negative, is actually not the SOR. Because the SOR, if the roots are alpha and beta, it should be alpha plus beta. It shouldn't be negative alpha, negative beta. So no choice, we have to pull out the negative. So inside here, it will form the SOR that we want, which is alpha plus beta. So whenever we're going to pull out our SOR, make sure we do change from positive to negative or the other way around. So let's move on to part B. So here, the things we need to highlight is we need to find possible values of x, meaning there will be more than one answer, and our answer need to be in this form. So let's start off by subbing fx equals to 4 into here. So here I'll make sure the denominators for these two fractions are the same. And here we just simplify the equation. Here we obtained a quadratic function. So if you try to put these three numbers into the calculator to find out the x, it will give you a decimal answer. So if that's the case, we cannot use calculator and just straight put the answers here. This is wrong and will deduct marks. So the only way that we can show the working would be using quadratic formula. So this is quite easy. We just need to find the values of a, b and c from this quadratic equation, and we can find x. So here I will separate 404 to 4 and 101. It's because I can move the 4 out of the square root and I can simplify, and this will be our final answer, because remember, we need to write our answer in this form. And with that, we have completed this question. So the take home point for this video would be to find our SOR and POR. Make sure the value of x squared is 1. If it's not, we need to do the same thing what we did here, which is to divide the whole equation with the number. And remember, to find the SOR, make sure from positive you change to negative, and negative you change to positive. And for POR, it's quite straightforward, just to pull out. The second point would be this quadratic formula. So whenever you sub these values into the equation and you found out that it is a decimal, we need to use the quadratic formula to obtain our points. So it's just very easy, just need to find the a, b and c from this quadratic function. So if you are interested in this video's answer scheme, you can click the link in the video description. And if you feel this is beneficial to you, please give a like, subscribe and share it to your friends and classmates. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment. So I'll see y'all in the next video. Thank you.